So Ben, what have you been up to last week?
Yeah, it's been some pretty epic weather recently, hasn't it? Good biz locally, which is pretty unusual. So since we last caught up, I've been out on the boat with the X Club. Had a couple of boats that went out of Plymouth, and we did I think like 4 or 5 spots in a day, which is really cool.
Nice.
Not a huge number of fish. I had a nice pollock. Actually, it was personal best, but it wasn't massive, so I'm not going to scream and shout about it too much. And then, as I said, really good biz closer to home. Had a really nice big bass again, 61 centimeters. So I was pretty pleased with that one. I always thought that was like, monster size, but you see some of the bass that they're pulling out, especially down Cornwall way. I guess that's a baby in some people's eyes. But yeah, really, really pleased with that one. And another David Soul to help with the competition points, although I'm still way behind you guys, unfortunately. So yeah, it's been a really good week. How about you guys?
Nice. How about you, Rich?
Yeah, it turns out I've had a good week. Last episode, I was a little bit behind both of you in the species hunt. And it turns out this week, I'm 1 point behind Anthony and ahead of Ben.
Yeah.
So
well done.
as you can tell, I've had a good week.
The thing is, the thing that the listeners don't know is that me and Ben have been hearing this all week. And it's in our little WhatsApp group, it's been, oh, I'm going to catch you. Oh, I've overtaken you, Ben. Oh, catching you, Ant. But
to be fair, Ben did wind me up a little bit, taking the mickey the one day, and I wasn't even going to go diving. And then and he started.
You got me to think.
Yeah, exactly. He started taking the mickey, and I thought, actually, no. Got the wife in the car, drove down there, had literally like 1 hour in the water, and landed up getting quite a few fish. So yeah, it's good.
But your points are going to be disqualified because I was just speaking to Barclay, and actually because you've got a doctor's note to say you're not allowed in the water, they don't count.
Oh, right. Yeah. But what Barclay didn't tell you is I've already paid him off just to make sure that I beat you too.
Oh, that's a bit of a... Well, we won't go there because I want to know how much you paid, because I paid a lot as well and Davo's still beating me. But I think we're all being spanked by Mr. Matthew Shaw at the moment anyway with his 3 triggers that we saw he got today.
Yeah, he's caught up quick. But I found a nice new spot this week, so that's all good. Loaded up with all my flatfish, just need a few more. But yeah, it's been a really good week. Back to diving. Awesome. Had a couple of weeks off tonight, so it's good to get back in the water.
Well, it's good to see that the summer's properly kicked off. Looking at social media and stuff, everybody's catching. I've been out a couple of times this week, but one of them, I was going to meet Ben and a friend of mine, Adam, that he brought his drone along, and a few of you might have seen, but there's some really good drone footage that I tagged Ben, Rich, and everybody else in of Adam following us while we were out at sea spearfishing, and it was just a really pretty 11-minute video. So well worth a watch if you haven't watched it already. But that dive, I go out, put my mask on, everything's fine, start swimming. Felt like the mask wasn't quite on my face right, so I pulled it off, put it back on, still water getting in. Anyway, find out about 10 minutes later there's a bloody great hole in the side of my mask.
Oh dear.
Fun. So I was playing scuba by just blowing my blowing the air out of my nose to try and keep my mask clear. But I've got a new one all ready to go for this competition this weekend. So
nice.
Which I'm looking forward to it. But anything else? Anything else going on? Anything personally? Everyone happy? Everyone good?
Yeah, all good. All good. I lost my dive knife, unfortunately, but the one that I won in a competition, so a bit annoyed about that. But I've got a rusty old one in the shed, and I mean super rusty. But I did hear somewhere else that if you stab the sand repeatedly, it does take the rust off your dive knife. So I might try that trick. I might try that trick this weekend. It might look a little bit odd, maybe, to some people on the beach, maybe repeatedly stabbing the sand, but that could be interesting.
I think instead of looking like some kind of Hannibal Lecter, maybe just get some really soft grit sandpaper. I think that'd be the same process. But so this episode, we've got a special guest on, another guest, Mr. Sam Seeley, also known as the Bearded Spearo. And we're just going to go and poke him out of his hole next to all those lobsters, crabs, and other things in the deep dark. And then we'll be back and we'll get into it. So see you in 5.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Welcome to the Spearo Hangout, where we talk all things spearfishing, free diving, and foraging. We're three guys from Devon in the UK who are excited to share some of the learnings from our spearfishing journey with you over the coming episodes. We bring in some special guests along the way to help spread some in-depth Spearo knowledge from some of the most experienced people in the scene.
If any listeners out there are good at making jingles up, can you please make us one up? We'd really appreciate it because we're tired of Anthony singing.
I think that's probably trademarked, but never mind. Only way is spearfishing or something like that. But yeah. So we are back, and we have our guests already in the halls waiting for us. But again, we've got Ben, Rich, and just introduce you both to our guest, Mr. Sam Seeley, aka Bearded Spearo. Sam, are you there?
I'm here. How are we doing?
I'm not bad. How are you?
Not too bad. Not too bad.
So, Sam, do you know Ben and Richard? Richard, Ben, say hi.
Roughly.
How's it going,
I'm not too bad. Yourselves?
Yeah, we're all good. We're always good. As long as we're in the water.
Good to see you again.
Exactly.
We saw each other last night, didn't we, Sam? Actually,
We did.
Impromptu meet on a local dive. So
Yeah.
Hold on. You. So Sam's my guest. And you go out diving with him last night. I'm not even aware of this.
we didn't intend to meet. It was just a by chance thing.
This is getting worse than EastEnders.
Now you boys know what I felt like when you went diving with Paul Maxwell. Just saying.
Touche.
Just saying.
Touche. So Sam, obviously, tell us a bit about you, how you sort of got into spearfishing. Where are you from, first of all, so we know where your spots are?
So, well, I got into spearfishing. So basically, I moved down with my parents when I was about 11, down to Cornwall from London, and I picked a surfboard up. I've done 21 years surfing. I was semi-professional. I was ranked 6th in the UK Grom status at 16. And then about 6 years ago, I decided I was with my mate. We went snorkeling in like rivers and stuff, and went out with like a metal detector and stuff like that. And I just went, you know what? Like I can't remember how I seen it. I think I seen it on something like Facebook or something like that, and wanted to give it a go. So I went into Plymouth. Went into a market, found a place that sold a gun, and I went in there. I was like, "Have you got any spear guns?" He was like, "I don't even know what you're talking about." So I explained it to him, and he managed to find some dusty old 65 centimeter Bouchat gun that was absolutely terrible, up somewhere in the top loft. And he brought it down. I was like, "How much do you want for that?" He's like, "A tenner." I was like, "Yeah, give it here." Took it and just sort of went from there. Out in my surf suit,
Nice.
just snorkeling around, whatever. Caught some wrasse on my first ever dive. And yeah, then went from there, and I've not picked up a surfboard since, actually. So to take a sport that I spent 21 years doing, to pick a gun up and not gone back to it. So yeah, and it just sort of progressed from there.
Nice. Very nice. Well, is your belly showing it now? Because it's just all full of fish with no exercise.
Well, I can't. COVID's put a bit of extra weight on. So, but yeah, no, eating loads, eating good. So that's all that matters.
You just mentioned wrasse. How do you find wrasse?
It was the first fish I shot.
When I say how do you find it, I mean, how do you find it as in eating wise? Because obviously you probably shot a few since then.
Yeah. It was fine. Like I liked it. It was really enjoyable, but I didn't take any more after that. So literally, I shot my first 2 wrasse, and then I've not shot a wrasse since.
And why is that? Just because there's a bit of a sort of. I think. Yeah, go on.
No, go on, finish.
I was just going to say there's a bit of a fishing barrel type feeling with a lot of Spearos with wrasse, in that obviously wrasse are really inquisitive and thick as 2 short planks. So they just swim straight up to you. And it's just, I hear a lot of Spearos say how, oh, no, I wouldn't shoot a wrasse. I don't shoot dogfish. I don't shoot flatfish. Is that why you don't shoot wrasse? You just feel it's too sort of easy, or is it to do with the eating of them? Or
I'd probably say they're hard work. They're hard work. You know, they're not the nicest of appetizing to you shoot one, you've got all that slime. They're solid. They've got an armor on them. It's just like, it's a lot of prep work. Like anyone that knows me, I don't do well at cooking and stuff like that. Like I'll catch a fish, fillet it, cook it, and I'll just eat it as it is. Like I don't care if it's got stuff with it. And I'm very impatient when it comes to cooking, so I don't like a lot of prep work. So basically, that's the only thing. I mean, I believe that everything I will shoot everything. I'll eat it, and then if I don't feel it, I won't shoot it again. But I'm always up for trying. You know, if I shoot something, I'll eat it, and then if I like it, I'll shoot it again. If I don't, I'll sort of leave it. Like dogfish, I've had a dogfish, tastes really well. Just can't be bothered with taking all the skin off and dealing with that. So
yeah.
But yeah, that's where, like, I'll shoot. I want to try ceviche. Everyone keeps banging on about ceviche, and I want to give it a go. So I'm just waiting for a comp that's got a RAS to allow, and then it's given me a reason to shoot one to then try it. I've still not pulled the trigger just to try it, if you know what I mean.
Well, talking about competitions, we've got one coming up on Saturday that does allow RAS, I believe.
It does it?
The rules, yeah. You're allowed 2, and they are, I think it's 40 centimetre size limit. So decent size.
Yeah, it's not a bad size.
And I've got a ceviche recipe that I'll whisper in your ear on Saturday. That's really nice.
Well, I'll definitely look out for one and aim for one, and then I'll take that recipe off you, and then we'll see if you can change me into eating RAS.
Sam, do you have like a favourite fish? Because obviously you've tried quite a few in your spearfishing time.
Like monkfish was up there. The monkfish was up there. That was beautiful. Obviously, you guys must have seen that I got my first trigger last week, and now that's probably my favourite eating fish.
Above the monkfish, you reckon?
Oh yeah, for sure. So like, I will definitely go out to take more. My wife, she doesn't eat fish at all. When she cooked it, she tried a little bit of it and she ate most of it. So for someone that doesn't eat fish as well, that's saying something. Like it was really, really nice.
Nice. How did you cook it?
She cooked it for me the first bit. I think she did it in the oven. She just did some stuff in the oven, brought it out to me. Was nice. Didn't really have much like sort of input on that, shall I say? And then the next one I had with like a pasta and like a tomato chili sauce and that. Just cook the pasta and then just put it all in, let it cook, marinade in it and that. And it was it was really, really, really nice.
Do you prefer it over sole?
I suppose it's quite different, isn't it? It's all the fish are all quite different. So I mean, sole's really good eating as well. I do enjoy sole over any of the other flatfish.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, I suppose it's quite hard. I haven't had a sole for a while, so I couldn't really my taste buds probably aren't really there to answer it compared, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I just asked because I've had a good week this week with the old sole, so haven't had any for ages, and then obviously got back into them, and they blow my mind every time. They're so good.
Yeah,
that's only why I was asking.
We had sole tonight, actually. Going back to what you're saying, like fish are completely different. I think to some people they're not. They're all the same. In fact, my missus was saying they all taste the same. Like, I mean, and they kind of look the same, I guess, to an extent when you take the skin off and everything else, if you don't look too closely. But tonight I cooked bass and sole side by side, and there's just no comparison. The bass, I'm not going to say it was bad because it definitely wasn't, but the sole was absolutely beautiful.
I think bass, I love hunting bass. Hunting bass is my favorite fish to sort of hunt, but they're so overrated.
I agree.
Like the taste of them is quite bland taste. There's not much to it. I mean, it's a trophy fish really at the end of the day. But I'd much rather go for a different type of species over bass if I can, Definitely.
Yeah. I now cook all my bass with a salt bake. So you just cover it essentially with salt, and it creates like a second oven almost. Excuse me. And it creates almost like a second oven. And I'll tell you what, that is definitely the best way to eat bass. Look it up on Google if anyone's listening. Salt baked bass. It's lovely.
Nice.
Absolutely. I mean,
is that messy?
It's quite fun cracking it open afterwards, like a bit of an Easter egg, really. But yeah, essentially you don't scale it, you don't do anything. You put a layer of salt down onto the pan, and then you put the fish on, cover it with salt, which has got to be slightly damp. So you put a little bit of water and egg whites with it. And and you just cover it. And you stuff it as normal with herbs and lemon and everything else. And you just bake it for about 20 minutes. And the purpose of the salt is to keep the moisture in the fish, so it almost steams itself while it's in there. And I'll tell you what, it's definitely the juiciest, most tender bass I've ever had. It was lovely.
Nice. I've got some recipes. Ben, you got any recipes for me on site? I've got one from each of the others. I've got to get one. Got to get one from you as well.
Yeah. What I do? What I do with sole tonight. So I think sole is one of these ones where it's best cooked simply. So I would first of all prepare it by skinning it. I tend to leave them on the bones because you get quite a nice bit of taste from the bones rather than filleting them, or I would fillet bass. But so take the skin off, leave it on the bones. So skin off on the front and the back. I would probably pan fry it with some salt, some pepper, and some olive oil probably to get it started. And then I'd add in butter towards the end, shave off some lemon. A lot of people just like squeeze a lemon. I like to get grate a lemon on top of it. You get just a little bit more flavor that way.
Yeah.
And that's all you need to do. That's it. You serve it up like that, and that butter goes a little bit brown and gets a bit of flavour from the fish and everything in the pan. And it's just beautiful. That was a boring recipe, but
but sometimes the simpler ones are the best ones,
I reckon so. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, lovely.
Beurre noisette is another one, or black butter with capers is another one from France that just it's just so nice. Everybody loves it whenever I've made it. But we've spoken about fish, and this is going to be a foraging episode. So I'm going to drag you lot kicking and screaming over to the fun that we have with lobsters and crabs. And Sam, you're a bit of a pro when it comes to getting crabs and lobsters out of holes. Talk us through what it is you do, or why you love finding the crustaceans so much.
I think it's because, like I say to a lot of people, that when you dive down, you look in the hole, you find a lobster, you're about to play a game of chess with this thing, right? So it's not. I like it. I like an interesting hunt, so I like a bit of a challenge. So lobsters will give you that challenge. They will make you think. It's not a case of laying down in kelp, doing a little grunt, shooting something because it comes in. It's a bit more, gets your mind going a little bit more. I think that's why I enjoy it so much. The other side of it as well is that you don't need a lot of viz to hunt lobsters. So if you've got a meter, that's enough. That's enough. It's harder work, but it's enough to be able to find a lobster and get something if the viz is bad as well. So it's
nice.
So for me, when it started, we met up with Ben. We went out for first dive, and ever since then we've gone out every single weekend. And we started off our first winter, we was just hunting for fish. So as soon as bass season finished, we went out the whole winter and we was just hunting fish. We spent endless hours in freezing cold looking at nothing. And it wasn't until sort of the later end of the winter where we spotted a lobster and we started to go from there. I wasted a lot of time trying to get lobsters out. I'd find one, and I think one of my records was I spent an hour and a half on one lobster and still didn't get it out. So I think from then on it sort of intrigued me. It's like I want to master this. I want to get this out. I don't want to be spending an hour and a half in 8-degree temperatures trying to get a bloody lobster out. So it sort of went from there, and I took a lot of things like if you find a lobster, spend 10 to 15 minutes max. If you can't get that lobster out, or if you think you've got a chance, continue. But most of the time, just move on. There'll be more. Don't waste so much time on something that may be in a hard hole or something like that. And you'll find your success rate is a lot better if you just moved on to the next one, and maybe the next one was a little bit easier.
So when you're on the surface, so I know you were saying about if you've got no viz, you can kind of just go poking around holes. But if you're on the surface and you're looking down, what's the signs for lobster? What's the signs for crab? What are you looking for from the surface to go out to interest you or spark your interest in that hole?
So so you got loads of different places that they'll be in cracks within ledges of like steep faces. They'll be on sand that goes into rock. So the main things I sort of look for if I'm from the surface is I look for quite rocky areas. So let's say you're swimming across, you've got loads of sand with broken reef and kelp and everything. You might find that you'll see like a small sort of like gully or something that's got loads of like slaty type rocks that are on the bottom. They tend to like these sorts of areas. There doesn't tend to be a lot of muck that will go into their holes and stuff like that. So that sparks my interest when I look for lobsters. On sand, you'll see like either like other dead crustaceans outside. You can see parts of crabs, things like that, even parts of other lobsters, potentially their own shell that they've shed. That gives you indications that there could be something that's eaten in there. You might bump into a few conger or a few, but which isn't a nice thing to look at sometimes. But usually you'll find there'll be just on the edge of a rock or something, there'll be a big pile of sand where they've dug out, because they like to dig out of their holes, build up a big pile like a little ramp, and you'll see the color change of the sand, so you know that something's been digging in there. When it comes to cracks and crevices, you can see most of them from the surface, or even if you've got like overhanging kelp and you can see it's quite dark underneath, usually it's best to just dive down, have a look, and you'll be surprised at what holes you could find that you don't see from the surface. But they're the main sort of things that I would look for when it comes down to expecting to find a lobster in a hole.
Nice. And is that are they the same telltale signs for brown crab or?
So brown crab, I've noticed they're more in sort of like vertical cracks more than they are. Like they'll be in horizontal, but most of the time I find them in quite a sort of a vertical or slanted crack. They're usually quite good to go into. I found a few in some holes, but usually they're on the edges of rocks, or they're not. Most of the holes aren't very deep either. Obviously, they sort of jack themselves against the holes to obviously stop themselves from getting out. So that's more their defense mechanism rather than the actual deepness of the hole itself. So I tend to find a lot of them are sort of jammed in cracks. That's the main sort of one I find. Brown crabs are weird though. I tend to just find them more in clusters, rather than, there's more lobsters around that I've noticed than there is brown crabs. Whether they might be in holes, when I'm going out lobster hunting, I don't come across them as much because they might be in an area that I'm not sort of more interested in if I'm sort of targeting lobsters rather than the crabs. Most brown crabs I tend to find I've just stumbled across them rather than intentionally looking for them. But yeah, small cracks is the go-to for brown crabs.
Well, stumbling across crabs, that I could kind of segue into Ben the other evening. I think we were out at somewhere in Devon, and I've been out with my mask flooding. I turn around, Ben's got the biggest smile on his face, mainly because it's being held by the biggest crab I've ever seen. Ben, how big was that thing?
Oh, dude, yeah, it was pretty big, and like you say, it was the biggest one I've ever seen. I don't know. It's not breaking any records, but I think it was like 23, 24 centimeters across the carapace. Wow. So that's, the claws were as big as my fist.
That's a big one.
Yeah.
How much did it weigh?
It's like 2 kilograms, something like that. So it's pretty heavy. It took a long time to cook. I think it was like 45 minutes. I didn't have a pan big enough, so I had to like steam it in the oven with some weird like foil on top and stuff. It was beautiful though. Like, the big crabs are just as tasty as the small ones, if not better. So yeah, that was an afternoon of picking crab. It was, and the good thing about the bigger ones is you can get more meat out of the legs. Like sometimes the smaller ones, like it's hardly even worth it sometimes. Whereas this, I think we spent about an hour just eating the crab legs. Me, my sister, and my daughter. It was just it's lovely. Yeah.
Oh, nice. Did you where did you find it? Was it in like a crack?
They call me lucky for a reason.
You're gonna tell me it was walking across the floor, just across
the floor. Yeah. And like it was probably 2 meters of water. It wasn't walking very fast. It was really chilled. It had no like rocks to run away into and brace itself against. It was the easiest thing ever.
Mainly because the only crack that it could have hidden in is something like Mount Kilimanjaro or something like that. This thing had been around for a few million years, so it was just crawling out of a volcano from underground.
It was crazy. And what got me is it was so far away from the ground that I would have expected crabs to be in. And maybe my expectations are just wrong. And I think what you're saying about the not necessarily vertical cracks, but more horizontal cracks is something that I'll certainly look out for more. Sam, I was going to ask, do you use any particular tools to extract lobsters and crabs?
So what I mean, a torch obviously is your best friend. Yeah. A torch is going to help you massively when it comes to looking in holes. Most of the time, lobsters will be at the front and stuff like that. But if they are further in, you could have missed a couple if you don't have that torch. I use a hook as well.
Sorry, I was just going to say, we'll cut that out then. Sorry. On torches, what would you recommend?
Cheap, mate. Honestly, I think I bought mine for 30 quid. I put AAA batteries in it, and it's seen me for 2 years. I've not had any issues with it. I know everyone goes really fancy, as long as I can see at the back of the hole, that's all I'm concerned about. Budget wise, a cheap torch is fine. I started off with one from £10 from eBay from Japan or something like that. Big bright yellow scuba diving thing. It was.
Yeah, I'm just holding one up now. It's
exactly
a fiver,
like that.
Pack of two.
Yeah. That's exactly what I started with. It did the job, and then I think I broke it, and then I just went. I went to the shop, just bought one for 30 quid. I think it's like a Salvamar one that I've got, and yeah, it does the job. I could get rechargeable batteries on it, but I just keep buying them just before I go out and just go like that. So it works. It doesn't let me down. The battery life's pretty good on it as well. As long as you let I'd probably say if you want to keep your battery going, is just turn it off, turn it on every time you're going to go look. I started off to begin with just keeping it on all the time, and then you'd soon find out that an hour in and you've run out of battery. So yeah, that's torch is cheap as long as you can see.
And I think also form factor of a torch as well. I mean, I've got a torch that I bought off Amazon. Again, it was a cheap one, but it was 70 quid, but it's massive. And I think it's more for scuba, and I could actually, club a seal over the head with it. And I call it the sun. And it's so bright that even to have it on its highest setting is just, you're blinding yourself. But the problem I find with it is it's because it's so big, it's actually really too much of a pain in the arse to actually use it to go looking in holes, because it doesn't fit in most of the holes and you're clambering around with it. It's not a light thing. So I'm going to have to take your advice and get the same torches as you and Ben, I think.
Yeah, definitely. That's the thing. You want to have your hands quite free, so you want to be able to drop things as well. So if you're trying to get a lobster out, drop your hook or something like that, or if you've got to leave your torch on the floor, leave it on the floor, because at the end of the day, you're gonna need free hands to be able to grab whatever you're trying to get out at the same time. And some of them can be two-handed jobs.
Yeah, I think sorry, Anthony. I think I bought the X-Star Orca. I think it's an old brand that I don't think they manufacture anymore. And I've had that thing probably going on actually since I started spearfishing, I think. So there are some good torches up there actually that do hold up. Just quickly referring back to the crab that Ben caught, I actually saw 2 brown crabs, or the crabs, whatever you want to call them, in the last couple of dives, and they were also just wandering around on the sand. I guess just looking for a bit of a feed up, really. That's a bit unusual. I don't usually find them just on the sand like that. So, yeah, that's a bit odd. And the other thing, Sam, is I saw Matthew Hunt put on social media earlier in the week saying that someone told him that most lobster holes would be facing away from the incoming swell. I don't know what your thoughts are on that. I've been thinking about it all week, and it actually makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, for sure. So there's a lot of things when it comes down to trying to find the right places. You can dive somewhere that's got great holes and you'll find very little in them. So they do like to face away from obviously the most normal, consistent waves and wind and swell that would be coming through. I have known them to be facing into them sometimes. What like, everyone's different in the way of hunting, as we was talking about earlier. Where you guys are diving consistently, the ground is a lot different to where I am. So things can be slightly different when it comes to the holes. It depends on the ground you're diving. So if you've got a place that's got real big boulders, big holes and stuff, probably wouldn't matter so much about swell direction, because they've got such a big hole that they can get away from it. A lot of the areas that I am, the holes will go deep. You can put your whole arm and spear in them, but they've still got they've got no exit. So they want to be facing a way that's not going to get kelp being smashed into the hole, and anything like that. So it does play a big part, and this is where it comes down to going out, learning, and figuring out. So if you go to a spot, you dive down, you find one, continue searching in the same direction and place that you found the first one. So once you find your first one, you'll find that your next ones will probably be a little bit easier for that location. I've recently went out for a dive, found one, moved literally, I don't know, a foot to the right, there was another. 2 feet to the right, there was another one. 2 feet to the right, like literally I had 6 in one rock. And out of all 5 of them, 3 were buried, 2 were melted. So, had got every single one of them out and put the buried ones back. And but it's that must have been a really good location for them to sit up.
It does seem that. Sorry, Andy. It does seem that a lot of spearfishing is just that, though. It's learning so that you can make everything more efficient. So if you kind of, like as you were saying, you knew the holes were facing one direction, then your dive's going to be a lot more efficient, isn't it? Yes. You're going to save a lot of time. You're going to save a lot of energy, and you're going to find a lot more of what you're looking for, aren't you? So yes, it's definitely learning those things. And even I've been spearfishing quite a few years, and even I didn't think about that. But yeah, sometimes it's good to step back a bit and have a look, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I
think it pulls into what you were saying, Rich, in terms of if you think about the sort of the anatomy of the swell. And when Sam was saying earlier on, you're looking for that patch of where they've pushed the sand out of the hole. They're going to want to, or I would have thought they'd have tended to want to sit in where the swell isn't going to push that sand straight back in. So they'll feel where the current is going against them, or where that swell is pushing up against the rock, and they'll make sure they're sat so that it's pulling the sand away. And I suppose that's probably why the sand spreads out a bit from their hole. Just saves them having to do a load of house cleaning all the time. So aside from a torch, you were saying about a hook or a spear. What's the best thing for poking them?
So I would, I've used a spear, I've used the hook, I've got my main hook, I've got a massive fishing gaff, so I haven't got a really small one. It's quite long, it's a beefy, heavy thing. I've customized it by basically it come with a really big hook on the end. I've bent that out, so it makes it a little bit easier to be able to get behind them with it. I find that my ones, I quite like mine because of how big it is. You can really use it to get in. It's not going to bend. It's really nice. It's got a big surface area. So lobsters don't like anything being behind them. So the main thing that you want to do is try and get that hook behind them. And why I like mine so much is because of how big it is, but it's also it's with the weight with it, it's really nice to get behind them. A lot of guys use the really thin ones with a really small hook on the end. You're just going to make your life a little bit harder. If you're trying to move a lobster with like a 20p piece size hook, and then I'm coming along with a boomerang, my boomerang is going to be a lot more efficient to be able to get that lobster out. So yeah, hooks, like people use paint rollers. They adapt paint rollers, make their own sort of hooks and stuff like that. Because at the end of the day, it's still another cost for something that at the end of the day is a bit of bent metal. Sorry, getting my words out, stumbling there. A bit of a tongue tweezer. But yeah, so it's a hook I prefer. When it comes to a spear, your flopper gets in the way a little bit. You can push it in, your flopper closes. Now you've just got a stick that you're trying to get it out with this. So I'd say effectively a hook's going to be your best friend when it comes down to getting lobsters out.
Yeah, nice. When you were saying about the lobsters don't like thing behind them, I'm still always amazed by the lobsters in that they see this large, I mean, you can see that they've seen it because they spook, and they see you and they spook, and then they see this large metal object coming at them going past them, and then suddenly there's something behind them. What is that? It's like, you are just a div. But, well, we're just going to take a 5-minute wee break, and we'll be right back with Sam, and we'll go more into the differences between crabs, lobsters, and which one he prefers to eat. So we'll be right back.
And we're back.
Yeah, welcome back. So everybody have a nice wee. So we were just before we started recording, we were talking about quite a specific thing, more on the spear fishing and the gear and suit side more than foraging. But Sam, we were just talking about pricking holes in your wetsuit hood in specific places by your ears and maybe over the crown of your head, just to relieve pressure. You were saying a second ago that you haven't done that and you don't find that you get that issue. Have you got any equalizing problems? Have you ever had any, or do you do anything specific with your mask or hood to make sure you don't have any issues?
So to stop that squeeze in the hoods, I have my mask laps into my hood. So I have my hood go over the skirts at the side. So when I equalize my mask, it will push air into my hood, which will in effect take away that squeeze from the hood itself.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that's cool. Ben, Rich, what do you guys do?
I pin my hood, so I put 2 pins, so one either side by my ears, not while I'm wearing the wetsuit, obviously. Just put that disclaimer in there. And then I put 3 pins across the top of the hood. And that since I've done that, and like I don't get any more hood squeeze. I used to get hood squeeze when I used to go below 8 meters. Don't get any of it anymore. But that is a good point, actually, that Sam said. That's a real good point. But yeah, that's what I do. I don't find that any cold water comes in or anything like that.
Yeah, it's cool.
I've started pinning my. I've started pinning my socks as well. So believe it or not, I pin the socks so that any urine that gets put into my wetsuit is then flushed out.
So that then leads on to the question of Pisset or no Pisset. Sam, you Pisset boy?
21 years surfing, you piss in your suit all the time. It was normal practice. Everyone was going, get a Pisset. I'm like, no, Pissets are for girls. Like, no, not doing it. And put one in my new suit, and I tell you what, I should have done it a lot sooner. It is a lot nicer.
Yeah.
I mean, the main benefits of it is when you wee in your suit, you actually get colder. So you'll be warm for 30 seconds, but because of the suits are designed to stay like skin contact with the with the open cell, when you put a barrier liquid in there, your body now has to heat up that barrier liquid that's there, so you don't have that consistent contact. So keeps you warmer, you don't stink of piss, and it stops infections as well, which can lead to ear infections and stuff like that, because you are in effect bathing in your own piss.
Ben,
but yeah, I'm Pisset.
Say again, Anthony.
Sorry, Ben. I think have you got a Pisset?
Yes. Yeah. It's one of the first things I did, actually. Interesting story. When I had, I think, my second suit Pisset fitted, it got fitted not on the front where you actually need it. It actually got fitted on the back. Obviously, it was a mistake. There wasn't any plan to get you through a difficult period. But yeah, that was quite shiny. But yeah, I wouldn't be without it now. It's brilliant.
Are you sure it just wasn't because when they saw you, they thought, oh, well, that's definitely a woman?
I did tell Ben to leave it on because it might come handy one day. You never know.
Yeah, one on the front and one on the back, maybe.
Yeah, try and squeeze one out of a Pisset. That would be a sight to see if it gets stuck. Does anybody know if they do really small Pissets? Because otherwise I just think mine's just going to let all the water in.
There is one that is really small. It's like a thimble. I can't remember what brand it is, but there is one that is like a thimble.
I did offer to cut my pinky off my wetsuit glove for you, mate, but you declined that, didn't you?
Because it was too big. Talk us through a little bit more. So with the Pisset, and I don't want to get obviously too graphic, but because I think I'm the only one here that doesn't have one because I love the taste of my own wee. But it's so obviously being a man, you're junk. Do you? Obviously, the Pisset is just hanging there without or sous the penis with sans le penis, and then when you want to go for a wee, I take it you just sort of like maneuver yourself into it, go for a wee, and then tuck it all back out, or do you tuck it in the whole time? Are we actually staring at your penis when we're looking at your Pisset? Or
well, mine's out. Mine's out for everyone to see. It's out all day long.
Yeah.
Honestly, like my knob is in it, and it is out. So I don't tuck it away or anything like that, and it's just there.
And the thing about the Pisset is, once it's in, like, you don't want it to come out again because you're never going to get it back in there. Like, because of the pressure of the water, it kind of sucks your bits to your legs, and there's no way of like maneuver. Well, there is, but like take you half an hour to get it back in there. So it's got to stay in unless you want to get out of the water. So sometimes I'll have to come back into shore to adjust my Pisset to go for a piss to get back in the sea.
Yeah, but that's why I actually put the holes in my socks, because I'm too lazy to go back to shore to maneuver it in. And then because I'm busy chasing fish, and I'm like, okay, well, it's just going to happen. I'm just going to have to piss my wetsuit. But at least I've got holes in my socks so that it just drains out.
I think you've normally got holes in your socks from the socks and gloves that I remember. In fact, quite often, Rich, you don't dive with gloves and socks, right?
Yeah, well, I've kind of got out of that habit because the last dive me and you went on, I landed up with the bass spine from the dorsal fin in my hand when I was grappling it.
Yeah.
So I've now gone back to gloves again. And my toes, the tops of my toes are quite scarred from blisters from diving without socks. So I've made the decision to go back to socks. Yes.
Good. And I know that none of us are medically trained, but you hear a little bit on the grapevine about UTIs or urinary tract infections from Pissets. Do you guys feel any water going up the Pisset apart, because the water is only meant to go out over you and then out of the Pisset, but do you ever feel any water going up the wrong way?
It's like a valve, right?
Yeah. It's a one-way valve in effect. So when the pressure pushes out, it pushes out, and then as soon as the pressure stops, it just goes tight back together.
So it's quite a tight sort of, I think of it like a finger of a glove. It's quite a tight, closed point at the end that obviously then your penis is in, but water can't get in.
No.
Oh, nice.
Just imagine the world's worst Johnny, and that's pretty much what it is.
Very nice. Well, it's a crisp packet, isn't it?
Yeah, I was a bit worried about UTRs, to be honest. That's why I didn't have one fit for so long. And I made a decision, actually, I bought a new wetsuit recently, so I'm going to have one fitted. And yeah, I don't regret it. It's brilliant. I mean, like I said, the only times I really do stick a piss is when I just can't be asked to go back to shore and put it back in. But other than that, it's a brilliant piece of kit. I highly recommend everyone get it, especially if you're doing a lot of not diving, not allowed to, winter diving, because obviously you get a lot colder, as Sam said. So I would definitely look at having one of those fitted if you don't have one.
And I think there's somebody, and again, I heard it on the grapevine, somebody trying to come out with, for the fairer sex, a female version of a Pisset. But I don't think at the moment there is anything for the lady spearfishers or lady freedivers.
No, there's not.
No, well, Max, the Frenchman, he's currently trying to make one. Currently, at the minute, him and his wife are trying to figure something out for the females.
Thank God you said his wife, because I was thinking, what? So Max is actually a lady?
Yeah. He's go on.
No, with the Pisset that I've seen him with. The French Pissets are a little bit bigger than the English ones, I think.
Instead of cutting fingers off of gloves, they're cutting sleeves off of wetsuits. So moving on to well, one of the most epic photos I think I've ever seen of you, Sab, was you holding up that monstrous dinosaur monkfish, and your really good skills for finding them. How the hell did you find that?
I wouldn't say really good skills for finding it out. It was potluck. Like for 2 years I'd wanted one, and I was trying to find them. I mean, that's a species that you can't really target. I mean, you know, it's not like bass, it's not like flatfish. You know, you've sort of got ground to go off. With monkfish, I've found that you hunt flatty ground long enough in an area where they're known to be, you'll most likely stumble on one at the right time of year. Mine was pure luck. Like, you know, I went out for hours and hours and hours scanning sand, and, you know, didn't come across them. I might not have been in the right place where they would be. As we all know, they tend to be quite a deep fish, so you're going to find them more on wrecks at like 20 to 30 meters, if if not a bit deeper. But there's sort of the certain time of year where they do come in, they spawn, so that they'll come in further. A lot of talks, because a lot of them have come from the Plymouth area, that the dredging has stuff to do with it. So when they go through, it will move them out into shallower areas, and then they'll move back out into the deeper areas again. So mine was pure luck. Just so happened it was a really bad day, wasn't really finding much. Everyone else got back in the boat, decided to just carry on going out. I'm quite determined. I hate blanking, so I'll make sure I try and find something. And just stumbled upon it, and I was a bit surprised, to be honest with you, when I stumbled across it. Come across it. Viz was bad. I didn't have my time to sort of go up, look and wait, and then go down and assess what I was about to do. And just took the shot, come up. Didn't know what the hell I was doing. Didn't know how to dispatch the thing. You know, I'm just there holding this thing that's like thrashing around. So yeah, it was certainly nice. It's probably going to be the biggest fish I'll ever spear in the UK, unless I find a bigger one. But you know, that's probably the fish that will go down for me as being one of the best.
Nice. And did you eat it?
Oh yeah. I've still got some in the freezer. I'm literally genuine. I'm like I was. So the thing is, you don't get a massive yield. So it's like a fine meat that I've got in my freezer, basically. So the fish was 16.2 kilos, and I think I managed to get about 3.8 kilo yield out of it, and that's including the cheeks. So when you think,
nice.
You know, like the amount, so what's that? That's like 13 odd kilos. That's just waste. So yeah, you don't get a lot from it.
Well, their livers are a delicacy in Japan, I believe.
Anything's a delicacy in Japan, isn't it?
They are very good at eating the whole of a fish, and actually sort of pulling back to the lobsters and crabs, with using everything. Do you use the whole thing? Do you eat the head butter of crabs and lobsters? Is there anything that you stay away from, using that whole food eating ethic?
So lobsters, obviously the whole tail, all the claws. I don't tend to dive into the head part of it. Doesn't really look appetizing. Like,
you're missing out.
If it really, you can eat them. Well, you're gonna have to tell me what I've got to do, and I might try it.
So with lobster, that is my favorite part, is damn near licking out every single part of the head and then getting into all the little knuckles. But lobster head butter and crab head butter is where all the flavors at. My lobster is my all-time favorite food, and the tail is fantastic, but it's got nothing on the taste of the head butter. And it's the same as you do with the tail and stuff. If you want to cut it in half, bake it, grill it, just the head takes a little bit longer than the tail. So what I tend to say is, if you're doing it on a barbecue or if you're doing it on a grill the whole thing. Once you've done your 10, 12 minutes for the tail, cut the tail off, take that out, leave the head in for another 3 minutes, and just eat it as it is. Although it doesn't look appetizing, just a little bit on a teaspoon, put it in your mouth, close your eyes, and honestly, the flavor, it's like all of that lobster tail flavors condensed into this really, it's kind of similar to caviar. I call it the caviar of a lobster. Obviously, we're not eating lobster caviar because that's illegal.
Nope. Yep.
And the other thing is the roe before. If you see some of the lobsters you've probably seen have got that quite stiff black portion just at the top of their head.
Yep.
That's the pre-roe. And so that's the eggs before they're hatched. Obviously, it's a female, but it's too late by then. She's not buried. She's not notched. That's a tongue twister.
Yep.
Not notched. And that makes a fantastic mayonnaise. Take it out, put it in a mayonnaise, just whisk it all up, and it turns it into a really gorgeous, slightly salty mayonnaise.
Nice.
While we're in the subject of the roe from the lobster, I actually saw a really good post on Instagram from the oyster lady, I believe. She mixed the roe with some butter to make a almost like a lobster butter, and she then I think they were cooking steak with it, so you can almost have like a surf and turf type flavor. That looked really good. I'm good. Yeah, I'm going to try that next time. Yeah.
But yeah, same thing for the crab. The crab head butter is it's just divine. I as soon as I get the crab out, it's cooled down, stick it in ice water, peel the head off. The claws and the leg meat can wait. Like I'm all about that head.
Well, it's the brown meat, isn't it? It's the first time I got my first crab and I've cracked that head open, I was looking at it going, what? Like, what is this? Like, it tastes good. You've got to get that mental thing away that the fact you're looking at something that looks like shit, and you once you get past that block, it tastes good. The head has a sort of a bit of a spasm for a bit because it's like, this shouldn't taste nice, but it does taste nice. Yeah. So like it does taste good. But yeah, anyone that gets put off by it, try it. It is something to try, and I'm definitely going to try the lobster head.
Well, moving on to something else that looks and probably doesn't taste as it looks. Ben, I think you wanted to ask him about cuttlefish.
Yeah, I did this at the last minute because I'm desperate to find some more this year. I think I had one or two last year, and it's one of my favourite things. And I know that you share that love of cuttlefish, Sam.
Yes.
I just wanted to find a little bit more about where you might find these. We're kind of, Devon based, and there's lots of different kind of coastline in there. I know that the Cornish lads find a lot down that way. What kind of ground are we looking for when we're looking for cuttlefish? I tend to be quite successful in the same sort of ground as flatties. They tend to sort of cohabit the same sort of area. Just recently, last week in a shore dive, I ended up finding a really nice patch. Moved on to some newer ground that was a bit deeper out. I was on about 13 meters, something like that. Mm-hmm. And I come down, and this is quite new to me as well, is that where the sand waves are, those waves that the ripples, should we say, I come down and I was looking at about 30 cuttlefish, and they were all sat on the tops of these waves in lines, all facing the same direction, which was really bizarre. I could have gone along with my spear and just started plonking them each, sort of thing. But yeah, like flatty ground's usually your best sand. They do bury themselves. They're in the same sort of areas. I've seen them sort of in open, bigger areas of sand. I've seen them close to reefs and stuff like that. You've got to have your eye on them, because they're like little rugby ball shapes that do bury themselves, and you can miss them. Usually the telltale signs are sort of like they're little like feather wing things on the sides that you'll see them out. They don't tend to bury them that well. Yeah. Or they might have their two tentacles sticking up out in the air, and they're usually the sort of telltale signs that you'll find them. If you find one, keep looking around, because you might find a few more dotted around. Yeah, interesting. They say that about flatfish as well, don't they? In particular, like sole, brill, turbot. Generally, if you can find one, you can usually find its friend nearby.
In theory, the last couple of times I've gone looking for flatties, I've found one thinking, I'm quitting, I'm going to start. Yeah. Spent 40 minutes and I've not found another. Like, I've probably found it while it was passing, to go to where all its friends are, But yes, in theory, yeah. Usually, if you find one, you should find a fair few around.
Good stuff. And you can catch them in the shallows as much as you can. I mean, perhaps 13 meters is a bit too deep for me at the moment, where I'm in my spearfishing journey. But, you can catch them in 2-3 meters, right?
I don't think I've had any myself in that shallow. I'd probably say the shallow I've had them is probably about 6 to 7 meters.
Cool.
I found, so my biggest one that I had not too long back, which was just under 2 kilo, that one was free swimming through the reef. So, and it was coming from inshore. So I know that on the section I was on was about 7 meters, and I know the other side of the reef where it was coming from was in about 4 or 5. So they are potentially, can spot them in the shallows, but I don't think they hang around there long.
Yeah.
So it'd be one.
The last time me and you went out, Ben, we I wouldn't say where, because but yeah, I had a cuttlefish tonight, and that was only 2 meters, was it?
Yeah,
2.5.
Okay.
Yeah,
Something
and
like
when
that.
I've been out with Anthony, I think possibly in a similar spot to where you caught the big ones. Anthony had a huge one as well. That was at that was it Spider Club meet? That was really cool to see that.
Yeah.
But they're beautiful. Out last night, I saw a few squid as well, a closely related cousin, but not so much the big ones. Do you see many squid?
I haven't. It's one that I do want to try and target. I do want to try and get one in the UK. I think cuttle tastes better than squid.
Yeah,
I'd take if I had to choose between a squid and a cuttle, I'd probably pick the squid to get my first one, and then after that, I'd pick a cuttle. But yeah, cuttle's a lot more. I prefer the taste of a cuttlefish over a squid. But I've not seen many. Not.
Catching my last cuttle. It was in 6, 7, 8 meters of water. The viz was absolutely crystal clear. I was swimming over, and I saw it in between a couple of gullies, and I saw 2 of them come out as though they'd just left their home and they were on their way to work. And I was like, it's just like, I know there are probably a pair or friends. Either they've been to the pub or they're married. And so I took the bigger of the 2, and then tried to find the second one just to put them both out of their misery, but couldn't find her. But they're stunning creatures. They taste really, really good, but they are very, very pretty. But yeah, when they're on the end of your spear and they're sort of 2 kilos and they're flapping round and inking everywhere, it's suddenly you sort of brown trousers time going, shit, I can't see a thing. I've got this alien spinning round perfectly on the end of my spear, trying to eat my hand.
Well, you got to be careful with their beak as well. One I got the other day actually took a chunk out of my glove. Didn't realise it was about to take a little bite down. So luckily it didn't get to skin. But the beaks can be quite vicious, should we say?
Yeah, they're like parrots.
Yeah, for sure.
So obviously you left the surfing. You've now been spearfishing for a few years. Are you spearfishing forever now? Where do you see yourself? Where do you want this to go? Do you want to go sponsorship? Because we had Matt on last week, who's a sponsored Spearo. Is that sort of where you're trying to go, or have you got a YouTube channel? What is it you're trying to do?
So I've done a lot of sports in my life. I'm one of them where I do a sport, I get to the best level I can possibly get to, I then get bored of it and move on. Surfing was one of them that I didn't. In today's standards, when it comes to surfing, back in the day, if you was popping an air, you was doing well. Nowadays, you've got to do a 540 alley-oop or something, or something like that. It's the same as skating and stuff like that. Kick flips were all the craze back in the day. If you're not doing a tray flip now, you're rubbish. So, I think this is me forever. I really enjoy it. Like I haven't bought a fish from the shop in over 4 years. I really quite like the ethic of catching your own food, hunting for it.
Nice.
Sponsorship wise, I wouldn't turn a sponsorship down. It would be coming from surfing. I was sponsored by multiple companies. Biggest one being Monster Energy, which I'm still sponsored by now, but they still don't know that I don't surf anymore. But they, but I know it's one of them. They help. They help give you that back in, and then in return, obviously, you're helping the company at the same time. So it's obviously what they can offer you and what you can offer them at the same time. I feel I'm quite a competitive person, so I feel that it does help having that backing behind you. It shows that sort of recognition towards yourself, and it gives you that, it gives you that sort of ambition to push yourself a little bit more.
Yeah. Nice.
Obviously, I like competing. I plan to I hope to do quite well this year in competitions. I've really got my head screwed on for this one.
Are you coming down to Meadfoot on Saturday?
I'll be doing all of them. This year.
Can you let me do your weights?
I
just need to give you a handicap.
What? Take them off?
Yeah.
I can dive without them. Not a problem.
I wouldn't want to put any more on. I'm not saying I'm going to drown you, but just make your life harder trying to sit at 2 or 3 meters with your legs kicking up there. But and so you've got a YouTube channel that I've watched quite a few of your videos. Are really, really well presented and really well done. What's your YouTube channel?
Bearded Spearo. Bearded Spearo is so search that you'll be able to find me. My monkfish videos on there. There's a few other good videos that are on there as well. I started that ever since I was a kid. We're like 8, 9. We're making skate videos. My mate's dad had a camera, so I've always been into making videos. I make a lot of like B-roll videos and stuff like that. So I love editing videos and stuff like that. So I thought, I'd start documenting it. It's quite easy. Things like surfing, for example, I always needed a photographer with me to be able to film. So it was really hard to be able to film, something that I love doing. So when it comes to spearfishing, you can film yourself, strap a GoPro to your head and away you go. That's all you need to see. I started that. It's going all right. It's not too bad. I'm not here to make money off it. If it gets to that point where it's hard work, like people think it's easy to make money off of it, and it's really not. You need to have some good big following, to be able to make anything from it. But it's just nice just to put something out. I enjoy making the videos more than anything. So I plan this year to sort of take it into a different avenue, should I say. So like before, most of the time it was go out, do a dive, film what you've done, edit it, tell how your dive went. And I found it becomes very boring. People are watching you do the same thing, shoot the same stuff on a different day, every month. So we've got quite a few plans this year for the channel where they're going to be a little bit more different, shall I say, a little bit more engaging. So as people may not have seen, we did a 24-hour survival not too long back, which was really nice. It was a really odd one for me to edit as well, like no music. It was very raw. There was not a lot of editing involved in it, which was quite nice. It's quite engaging when you haven't got music going on and stuff like that. So we plan to do quite a lot of these survival challenges. We've got one coming up in 2 weeks' time, which we're going to go and film, and it is going to be pretty hardcore, to say the least. Nice. Going out minimal gear. So we're really looking forward to that, and we're going to try and build ourselves up to a 3-day one.
Nice.
So full on survival, which is really good.
Well, that ties into the second to last question, and I'm going to put you on a spot.
Go for it.
Name your piece of gear you could not live without.
I don't know. That is really on the spot, isn't it? I don't know. That's a hard one. That. What could I know?
Well, we need an answer.
Obviously, a snorkel, theoretically.
It's mainly just so I know what to take off you on Saturday.
I really don't know. Yeah.
Obviously, so aside from holes in your mask or your snorkel getting lost, but like obviously we're talking about foraging mainly this episode. But obviously, you do all kinds of spearfishing. Foraging without a hook, without a torch.
I'd say my torch. I'd say my torch if it was going to come down to it, my torch. Because I can always grab a bit of kelp or use my hand or something like that. So, but if you're blind trying to do it, I'd say a torch. If coming down to foraging, it'd be a torch would be for me.
Nice. Yeah. Awesome. And I think Richard's got your final question. Something that he shaved off not too long ago, but
You're one of the similar kind as me. We both dive with a beard.
Yep.
So any listeners that are listening, Sam's got quite a hefty beard on him and quite a hefty tash, actually. So how do you manage that? Do you use the old Vaseline trick, or what do you do? I mean, personally, I just shave my tash off, leave my beard, and call myself Amish.
So like with a tash, so I find a mask that's got a really small skirt just under the nose. That will really help. So like you'll have ones that are quite big. So if you can find one that's really low profile under the nose, that will really help. And if you're gonna have a beard, it's or a tash, you either shave every single time you go to dive. The couple of days after you've shaved to the point where the beard starts to grow, your hair will grow out straight. So you will have leakage all the time, or just let it grow. So I don't use Vaseline or anything like that. I put my mask on, but because of the hair thickness and how it goes, the hair itself will actually create a barrier when it's all compressed down. So let it grow.
Yeah, awesome. I think my wife actually prefers me looking Amish. Yeah, I don't know if you can see it very well on there, but it's growing back a little bit. But yeah, I've been out for a couple of days, so we haven't got much time left, have we? I don't think, but I think we got some listeners' questions that we put out onto social media. What would you want to ask Sam Seeley? And we've got a few questions, so I'll get on to Ben. Ben, do you want to crack on with those?
Yeah. So they're just quick fire things. So 5-10 words, see what you come up with. So first one is, where did you find your triggerfish?
In the sea.
Good answer.
That was actually our friend Tony Sykes that asked that question.
Was it? Yeah, I bet.
Oh, well, me and Tony, we I think we're going to be swapping a gilt head for trigger, maybe.
Yeah, that's a good trade.
So,
I don't have anything to trade with him.
I'll take that one.
I tried trading him Sol for the old gilt head, but I don't know if that's going to happen.
All right, next one. Best spearfishing purchase you made?
Oh, probably patrol float. Probably my patrol float. I'd probably say that is.
Yeah, join the club.
All right, how to scout new ground? That's a big question. Can't do that in 10 words.
Dive it consistently. Like when I first started, I hit three main beaches shore diving for 3 years straight, and they were the only ones that I hit. And I soon learned that ground quickly. I say to people, secret spots and all this, like Talland was my spot.
Yeah.
Since the competition, everybody's traveling there, everyone's diving out, and I'd see 1 or 2 Spearos a week, maybe. Now I'm seeing 3-4 a day, but they still don't know my spots within that area.
Yeah.
So it can be a specific rock, just a one rock or one bit of thing that will have it. People can be there and dive, but they still won't find that spot. So I think it's get out there.
That's really interesting, because we had the same comment last week, didn't we, from Matt Newman?
Matt Newman, yeah.
Yeah, the exact same comment. I think that that's spot on, really. I think we're all diving in the sea, aren't we? And then that's the reason why when you go in pairs, one of you might blank and the other might not. So
yes,
yeah. Nice one. How do you meet buddies in the community?
I'd suppose Facebook and is in the forums, and that's probably a good place to start. If you are a member of any clubs or anything like that, club dives, or even just chatting with people that are local to you to get out. I was quite fortunate that me and Ben, we dive regularly every single week. We had a New Zealander who managed to find some viz in the worst storm we possibly had about 3 or 4 years ago. I think about 3 years ago. Everyone didn't believe him. I said, I'll come meet you for a dive. Ben was there, and ever since then we've dived together. So yeah, really good buddy to go out with, and I wouldn't want to go out with anybody else.
Yeah.
And when it comes down to lobstering as well, having the buddy to team up on some of the harder ones is really good fun, where you take it in turns to try and play chess with this lobster.
Definitely.
Yeah, we tried that at a local spot recently, didn't we, Anthony? But came home empty-handed, unfortunately. Oh no, you got 2 lobsters, if I remember that correctly. Moving on, your go-to seafood dish?
It'd be lobster, lobster and coal. That hands down. Like I say, I'm not extravagant. Like I'll just have it on its own, salt and pepper. Like that's me. But triggers are on there now.
Nice one.
Nice.
Good stuff. I'm going to pass back to Anthony for last few questions and a roundup.
Sure.
Yeah. So, funniest moment spearfishing.
I think it was Ben's discussion of how he shot an octopus. It is actually on one of my YouTube videos. I was in stitches when he told me, and he shot it, and it just like pulled all its legs up and started going at him. Like, you know, I'd probably say that was probably one of the funniest stories moments that I've had. I would say, yeah.
Nice. Well, we'll definitely have to go and watch that. And all the listeners head over to Sam's YouTube channel, Bearded Spearo. Just type that on YouTube. You find all of his videos there. Fantastic. But around that for now, thank you very much, Sam, for coming on. It's been an absolute pleasure. And I'm sure Rich and Ben agree that you've been fantastic and very knowledgeable. And we're looking forward to kicking your ass on Saturday.
I look forward to it.
Thank you very much for coming on, Sam.
Thanks for having me. Not a problem.
Cheers, Sam. Appreciate that, mate.
Speak to you soon, buddy.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Cool. Well, again, thank you very much, Sam. And yeah, what a fantastic bloke. Some serious knowledge. And yeah, if you're listening, go over to his YouTube channel, Bearded Spearo, and go and have a watch of some of his videos. He was saying about how he's going to be doing some like catch and cook survival types, where he only goes there with a condom, and he's only allowed 3 days. He can only catch things with a condom. So yeah, we're looking forward to that video, Sam.
Hopefully he doesn't catch crabs.
Oh.
See what I did there?
Nice.
Someone kick Richard from the chat. So coming up this week, as you probably heard already, we've got the Meadfoot spearfishing competition that I've won. So you guys just don't bother coming. But yeah, are you two coming?
We are. As long as the business is good, right?
Yeah.
Fair weather divers.
No, I'm not a fair weather diver. I'm just too excited to beat you two in the species hunt competition, to be honest. So
Yeah, taking it quite seriously, aren't we?
Yeah, we are. I actually said this to my wife as well. She's quite, well, I wouldn't say impressed. I think quite pissed off might be actually a better word for it. Because her response was, winning the spearfishing competition is not your life. You have other commitments. And yeah, you can imagine what my reply was to that. So but
Get back in the kitchen, woman.
yeah, she's going to listen to this. You know that.
The thing is, she knows where I live.
Next time she sees you, you're in trouble, bud.
That's fun.
Yeah. So I'm planning on being there. So I'm planning on either coming first or second, depending whether Anthony actually catches anything. But yeah, if hopefully
in any other kind of event, I always let the other person come first. But in this instance, not a chance.
Well, that's very kind of you.
Yeah, it's going to be really good anyway. We're going to try and record a little bit of an episode, or maybe just some sound bites to bring into the next episode, aren't we?
Yeah, I think we're going to potentially, I don't know how we're going to work this logistically, but if we can somehow do it, maybe we'll get a couple of snippets from people on the day after the diving, obviously.
Yeah.
Just general sort of chit chat, have a quick interview, and maybe just include them in the next podcast. So I think the next episode, we're talking about comp diving and our experiences with it, analysing it, going through what we did on the day possibly, and include those snippets.
Yep. Yeah. Looking forward to it.
I think next week, that's what we're just saying. We're just going to have a chilled one next week, right? We haven't got any guests on. We're just going to have a bit of a chill chit chat with us and maybe talk about our gear and how we found it during the comp and what we might change.
Yeah, definitely. I think we don't necessarily need to have a guest on every episode. The feedback we've had already, just people are quite happy to listen to us three talk up to shit for the next hour. But yeah, I think the next episode would do that. And then the following week, I believe Ben's lined someone up.
Yeah, I'll line someone up. I've got a couple of people in mind, but I'll introduce them in next week's episode because I haven't actually told them yet.
You booked them and they don't know they're coming.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
nice.
It's all good.
Well, thank you very much, lads. And it's been a pleasure as always. If there's any other segments or any questions that you've got or you'd like to hear, please send your requests to the spearohangout@gmail.com. And like you heard this episode, we'll try and get as many of those questions in, asking to the guest or to us. And they could be anything. They could be anything from information about fish, how to get into it, anything about spearfishing, freediving, foraging. We'll do our best to answer. So that's the spearohangout@gmail.com. Thanks again, guys. We'll see you next week.